Well, here I was, thinking I could just innocently start editing my video for the day at 12:20 a.m. on the 1st of April 2022. And what, an Undercards update? What the hell? How do they think they have the right to update the game at the start of a new month? Unbelievable. Oh hey, 69. Nice. Okay, the entire website is upside down on purpose. Yeah, so we got this. I don't know what this logo. I just realized it's Undercard. Oh my god. All the artifacts are. Wait, isn't Bravery by Empty One? Yeah. All the artifacts are. They're that. If we look at the legendaries, dear God, something's happened there, hasn't it? Welcome to the Gucci stuff. I don't know if I'm comfortable with this. Spinning jail. Why does Cage Chester? Why is Jeffel blushing and acting like a dog? Oh God, I don't like this. I'm sorry, I love this image of Birdley. NFTs, of course. Wait, why is Gerson? Oh wait, hang on. Can I remove my card skin? I forget I actually have a Gerson card skin because I like it's literally the only card skin I have. Like, can I turn it off? I actually don't. I've never had to turn one off before, so I don't know if I can. I'm gonna guess the fact that right, I guess I'll just have to never know what the Gerson one is. Okay, classic. Cry about it. I've seen that one. Ralsei in the Mercedes Benz. Let's go. Okay, that's good. Score will kill you. Wonderful. Yeah. It was important we address this first. Why is this one of my favorites? I don't know. It's just that is going to be a powerful yeet when that image becomes animated. We got Roll Papyrus epic mod there, bro. Oh, we got Underpants Asgore. What is no board control? Oh my god. Yeah. Skill issue. Please hold it. I get it. Okay, that's funny. And I don't even know what. Oh wait. Okay, I was really confused what this was supposed to be. And then I saw we're gonna be rich, and I clicked. Oh god, it's Reno Jackson from Hearthstone. Because okay, for the 1% of you who don't know what Hearthstone's about, there was a legendary card in Hearthstone which is very infamous called Reno Jackson, which is a 6-cost 4/6, which you had no duplicates in your deck, would instantly set your health to full. And considering by default 30 is the full health in this game, obviously Asriel Dreamer is kind of like an expensive Reno Jackson in this game without the one copy of each card condition. So yeah. Anyway, time to talk about the actual update, because it looks like there's quite a lot to talk about. And also, I haven't looked at... I've had a brief look at the new cards. I haven't really looked at the balance changes, so bear with me. First of all, we got Dispatch, which is we got a lot of new spells, which I will say, before I even get into this, I like the fact that I'm seeing so many new spells, because I do feel like this game does not have enough spells. I don't know, it feels a lot of the time like there's just not that much soul identity. It feels like most of the soul's identities at the moment, or at least before this update, have been in their passives, and I feel like that comes down to there's so very few like soul exclusive cards. So I'm liking to see more spells get added to the game. So as I say, we got Dispatch for Integrity. I could be completely wrong on this one, but I think this one's going to be pretty niche and not too useful. It's a 1-cost spell that burns 2 random generated cards in your hand and deals 3 damage to a random enemy monster for each card burned. So this card kind of sucks, because you spend 1 gold and lose 3 cards in your hand just to deal 6 damage. And don't get me wrong, 6 damage for 1 is good, except it's 6 untargeted damage split across 2 targets, so you can't put that 6 Well, actually, oh no, you could do that, put the 6 damage into the same target, never mind, but still, untargeted damage, and of course it can't go face. If this 6 damage could go face, this would be terrifying, but considering it can't, which I'm not asking for it to go face, that would be, as I say, terrifying. I mean, I'm not gonna count this one out. I will say that, obviously, for one, 6 damage is a lot, and there are decks that would want it. In fact, you know what? No. I take it back. Again, I need to remind myself that just how easy it is to draw lots of cards in this game. You could easily run some kind of Adrenaline, Integrity, Aggro deck. Already, the Integrity Aggro deck I used for climbing was one running Adrenaline that empties its hand quickly. So I could see this working out. The problem is that would have to be an Integrity, Adrenaline, Aggro deck that also wants the damage on monsters that can't hit face, that can't be targeted, that also is able to generate the random generated monsters to be able to burn with Dispatch. Otherwise, I don't think it's worth it. This can also burn one random generated monster instead, but I just don't think that's worth it. I don't think paying 1 and burning a card to just deal 3 damage to a random target is worth it at all. I think that's garbage. So yeah, this is one of those ones where I do see the potential for it to be strong, but I feel like, at least for now, maybe it's a card to watch out for in the future, but it seems like a bit of a meme for now. As I say, if it was burn 2 random cards, just any cards in your hand, I think that it's good. In specifically an Adrenaline aggro deck, or just a non-Adrenaline aggro deck that just happens to have a lot of draw to compensate for the burned cards. But the way it is now, having to hit generated monsters, probably a bit too hard to set up to be worthwhile. And I don't think this ever sees play outside of aggro. I think that Control will not like running a 1-cost spell that requires you to burn 2 cards, even if the deck does have decent draw. I think that's too wasteful of your resources to be good in Control. And I think for mid-range, this just seems a bit like you would slow down so much to try and set this up that you would lose your kind of tempo and it wouldn't really be worthwhile. It only seems like it'd be useful in aggro if you try and high roll with it. So yeah. Eye Shock, Patience spell, another epic. Deal 1 damage to a monster, and if it gets killed by that, paralyze its adjacent monsters. I'm not gonna lie, is it me, or is this spell just bad? I'm not going to say all the new cards are bad, by the way, but I got to be honest with you. I guess I see the potential here. I mean, like, Paralyze is really effective in the right situation. 2 Paralyzes plus 1 damage. It sounds strong in theory. It could be really good for sustain. It's just, people will know you have this card if you're Patience, and it's actually decent. So they can easily play around it. Now, even if they play around it, you can probably get 1 damage and 1 paralyze. But let me ask this. Do you think a 3-cost spell that's a conditional 1 damage with a paralyze is worth it? Remember that there's also an epic spell you have which paralyzes and silences something guaranteed for 2. I think paralyze and silence is better than paralyze and 1 damage, especially unconditional paralyze and silence for 1 less gold. I think this is only worthwhile if you can consistently get the double paralyze and the kill on significant targets. So, honestly, it seems too weak as is. I don't mind the idea, though. I kind of like the idea. I just, definitely feels too weak as is. Definitely needs some buffs. I don't know which direction you take this. I suppose I would like to see it become a bigger spell. Like, more expensive for a bigger impact is probably... Because I was thinking... Maybe this becomes good if you make it like 2 or 1 cost, but even though that's probably true, I feel like Patience has enough low-cost spells, and if anything, they are lacking in more expensive, bigger spells. Anyway, we've got Frisk Laser here, which is a very memey card. 4 cost 1/7. Whenever you draw a card, turn it into a random Undertale legendary with that costs 2 less. So you might be really confused as to why this ability is on a Frisk-related card, but that's because Frisk has actually been reworked this update, and we'll get to that later. But as you can guess, it's to do with Undertale Legendary, their new ability. This card itself, I'm going to be real with you. Meme, I think. I think this is just a fun card and not a card you see actually get competitive play. Probably. Yeah, probably. I don't know, I haven't, proper, thought about all the potential combos here, but, I don't know. There's. I feel like the pool of Undertale legendaries isn't small enough for there to be consistent combos here. Okay, so the problem with this is, okay, there was another card similar to this that was added back when the Chapter 2 cards first came called Glitch, and it was a 4-cost 6/3 epic, which every single card you drew while you had it would turn into arcane codes, the token spell, which costs 2 and casts a random spell on a random target. And when it died, if I remember right, it reduced all the cost of your arcane codes by 2 in your hand, making them effectively free. And you could compare those two cards with that card with this. Now, Glitch didn't end up seeing much play, but personally, I don't think that's because Glitch was bad. I think it was just because Police Block existed, which had the exact same stat line, was also an epic, and on death, it would give you prison bars. Which I think that Police Block is just such a good card that even though Glitch is a fine card, the fact that they both were the same cost and same stat line and same rarity, and you wouldn't really want to put both in a deck, just meant that people always put Police Block in instead of Glitch. Now you might be like, oh, so if Glitch is decent, what's wrong with Frisk Laser? It's Glitch, but instead of random spells, it's random legendaries. Well, this is the problem with that. Glitch, I think, is decent because aggro is basically inherently high rolly. You have to kill early to win with aggro, and you kill early by taking risks and obviously having those risks work out for you. You often take smart risks, like risks you're likely to win, but you take risks. And so Glitch is inherently a very risky card with extremely high reward that could close out games extremely quickly depending on your luck. And if you're an aggro deck and you've run into a situation where you feel like you are going to fall behind, your opponent's going to force you into the late game and you're going to lose, then at that point you play to your outs. You essentially play all your cards that are like random bullshit go. Let me see what I can do, what damage I can get in before I have to do something about this, or before like my opponent drags me too far into the late game and I'm dead. So Glitch actually had some utility because it had an extremely high attack value for a 4-cost, which meant that if it didn't get killed, it could deal a lot of damage and punish the opponent hard. And even if it did get killed, you would then have a random spell on a random target, which could be huge and game-winning if you got lucky and swing the game back into your favor, which, again, isn't a bad play, considering even though it could backfire, if it backfires, you are going to lose anyway if it didn't work out. So it's not like you lost a game you were going to win because you played it. It's you had a chance to win a game you were going to lose and you didn't get lucky and you didn't hit that chance. That means it wasn't really a misplay. So yeah, I know that's a bit convoluted, but that's why Glitch is good. The same doesn't really apply to Frisk Laser because you don't use Frisk Laser aggressively. It has 1 attack, its stats aren't quite as good as Glitch, and transforming those cards into random Undertale legendaries is actually worse than transforming them into arcane codes for an aggressive deck. Because legendaries are obviously typically expensive. There's a few exceptions, Sans Dog is pretty cheap, Noelle is pretty cheap, even though in the long term you spend a lot of gold on her if you get the full value off of her. Mio Mio sounds pretty cheap, but most of them cost like 10, 11, 12, 13. So you're not getting cheap cards that you can play in an aggressive deck from this. You're getting expensive late game cards. And these expensive late game cards are likely not going to have much synergy with your deck, and also are likely not going to be because they're random. There's that element of risk. Only here it doesn't make as much sense because if you're playing a late game deck, you don't really want to take risks a lot of the time because the later you get into the game, the more assured you are that you're probably going to win if things go as expected. And again, you take risks when you're behind, and the later you get into the game with a control deck or a big just general value deck, the more your chances of winning go up, and you're not really behind in that situation. So taking the risk of trying to get something good off of Frisk Laser when it could just give you garbage just feels like a very unnecessary risk. So yeah, I do think this card is probably not good competitively. All that said, if you are a free-to-play player and you kind of have the bones of a control deck, but you don't have any high value plays to actually win in the long term, then sure, you could probably generate a lot of value off of Frisk Laser, but yeah, it wouldn't be as efficient as just owning the cards and running them in your deck. The next 2 cards are tokens that we're going to get back to later because they're part of other spells, but we got Ultimate Heal over here, the new epic for kindness, which, oh boy, does this interest me. Ultimate Heal will give +2 health to all monsters. Garbage. Wherever they are. Oh. So I'm pretty sure that means +2 health to all monsters on your board, all monsters in your hand, all monsters in your deck, and maybe even all monsters in your dust pile if you happen to bring them back from the dead. That could be pretty huge. It's hard to say because I don't think we've gotten a mechanic like this in this game yet. But I love these mechanics. Second to pulling things directly from the deck, this is my favourite kind of mechanic in a card game. Permanent buffs to everything that you have. So that you can just generally get bigger and stronger stuff, but later you get into the game, but initially up front you don't get much value off of it. I really like this. I just wonder what you pair it with to make it good. But there's definitely options. Already, first thing that pops into my head is Police Block. I was talking about that card earlier. Obviously, the main downside of Police Block is that it's got a low health amount. You use Ultimate Heal, now all your Police Blocks are 4-cost 6/5s. Pretty scary overall. I think using this with Neo would be a meme, but it was a funny thing to think about for a second. I mean, he's only got 1 health. You want to buff that health up? Actually, let me take a moment to... What? Okay, is there any, like, big monsters with really low health values that, like, would become much better if they had a higher health value? I don't know. Maybe they don't have to be big monsters, but, I suppose, yeah, I'm not seeing any really instantly, but either way, I think that in the long term, that's a very powerful card. It's just whether it's worth doing that in kindness. Well, kindness has test of will, so they definitely have long-term value as an option, even though they tend to be better with tempo, since their passive is so good with that. Okay, in fairness, I am kind of struggling to find low health big targets for this stuff. But as I say, I still think I stand by my prediction that this card's going to be pretty good. I don't think it will really be top tier. Oh, wait, hang on. Oh, I didn't even notice they reworked Noelle. And oh, that's not even Snoelle, that's Noelle. So they made Noelle a legendary instead of an epic. Oh, right, well, I guess we'll get to that later. Yeah, okay, I'm going to stop looking at these in a second if I don't find one in the next couple of pages. I feel like there's much more low health monsters in this game that I don't know, maybe I'm just blind and going past it. Oh, wait, armor. Oh, boy. Wait, why wasn't that the first thing I thought of? Armor. Oh, my God, armor with this. Okay, so yeah, I feel pretty confident this is a good card. Again, I don't know about top tier. I feel like this is probably something too slow to ever be really top tier, but I definitely think it seems like a solid option. Determination gets Control Wire, 5 costs, summon an exact copy of a monster. It attacks the original... Oh. Okay. I like that idea. Is there anything that's busted with... Okay, support with this should be interesting. Placeholder Chris is a good hit for that. Poppy Meter might be a good one. Well, no. So it seems like the best one to use that on would be Placeholder Chris, if we're talking about support cards. Oh, wait. Monster Kid. Is that too memey? I don't know, that sounds interesting to me, because Monster Kid's effect is really strong. The main problem with it is it's hard to trigger at the right time. This would be a way to not only instantly trigger his dust, but then instantly also kill it off, but then instantly also duplicate it, so you get it twice. So the only problem with that is that this gets better the more monsters that are on your board, obviously, and you can't have a full board if you do this because you need a free slot for the duplicate. But that seems like a strong option. Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe I should try when this attacks. I swear there's more... I'm just going to look up damage. I suppose that when damage things could also potentially benefit from this, but I'm not so sure about that one. Like, technically you could use it with Spike Trap, but that does... Oh, wait, that's doing the enemy term, never mind. I don't use Spike Trap, like, ever, so I didn't remember what it does. Okay, maybe I'm actually struggling to find applications of this, but it does seem like it has a lot of potential as a card, this, like, idea of copying and then forcing the copy to attack its original. I suppose maybe I should be looking at bigger cards, but I'm just looking at cards that might have synergies with the fact that it does the attack. Like, is Sword Emblem good? Probably not, but yeah. Oh my god. How did I not think of this? Mettaton Neo. Oh, that's disgusting. I know it's an 18 gold. Wait, not 18 gold. It's not even 18 gold, it's 15 gold, which isn't that bad actually, but still. I know it's a 15 gold combo, but that is disgusting. Because that's 12 damage to the face. Okay, that's scary. Just Night Knight. Oh wait, I just realized Night Knight's a big one too. Night Knight would be a good one to use it on. I suppose you could use it on Casual Undying for burst damage. It doesn't really get a benefit from attacking its copy, but it doesn't really stop it either if you only want it for the burst damage. So yeah. Yeah, that seems like a strong card because there's a decent amount of cards where the attack won't matter that much, and a 5-cost summon an exact copy of a monster is huge. So, yeah, even though this is usually a downside, sometimes it won't be, and yeah, I just think there are huge targets for this. As I say, Mettaton Neo, Placeholder Chris, potentially Monster Kid. I don't know, 5 is a little steep, but then 5 is... It's a little steep, but 5 is definitely in range of what an aggro deck can run. You know, they run Grillbee usually, and Grillbee costs 5. Anyway, Duck Off. Bravery 5-cost epic spell. Summon a Polka Duck. If you have no generated cards in your hand, add a Polka Duck to your hand. Program 3, summon another. So you can pay 8 to get 2 5/5s, and if you have no generated cards in your hand, add a Polka Duck to your hand. This is a weird condition to me, because Bravery has so much synergy with generated cards that I don't know why they have a no generated cards condition here. I don't know how I feel about this card. I don't know, it's just very vanilla. Seems decent. I mean, an 8 cost 10/10 in stats is nothing to scoff at. And a 5 cost 5/5 that adds a 4 cost 5/5 to your hand, even without the program, is like, yeah, that's probably like decent. Just very vanilla. Kind of not a fan of that, but it's probably. Is it a good card? Yeah, it probably is. Good for mid range. Probably playable as an aggro card, but not that great as an aggro card. Oh my god, I'm an idiot. I've already seen the art for this card, and I only just noticed that the reflection is Among Us. Well, crime scene. Summon a police line. What is a police line? It's this token card right here. Which I'd just like to say that it's kind of weird that this is a spell that does nothing but summon a unit. You know, you could have just made this unit. I get it. You wanted to make this Justice exclusive, and spells are the only things that tend to be exclusive. All monsters are neutral. You could have put something with it, though. But, whatever. Something besides just summoning that. But, alright. Oh, well. The police line itself is a 4-cost 3/4 with haste, although again its cost basically doesn't matter unless it gets returned to your hand. And whenever this attacks and kills a monster, summon a police line. And at the end of its turn, it silences itself and gains Taunt. So basically, you summon a 3/4 with haste, you attack into something and kill it. And then it summons another police line to attack again until you got a full board. So you can essentially think of this as an 8-cost, deal 3 damage to all enemy monsters. And summon and fill your board with 3/1 taunts, which sounds super overpowered until you realize that's the best case scenario. Because I'm going to guess with this text, considering how a lot of whenever this attack effects work, that if the attack kills the police line, it does not summon another police line. Also, of course, the silence is to prevent it from being an infinite loop of non-stop police lines. So yeah. I'm interested to see what this is like. You see, it strikes me as an extremely good card on its face. I think 3 damage to everything is going to be decent, even at 8, and I think getting taunts with it would be huge. The only problem is I'm just thinking, are you going to be able to deal 3 damage to that many things without your police lines dying? Like, 4 health doesn't sound like a small amount, but considering this is an 8-cost card, so this isn't going to be coming down, like, early, I feel like there's a decent chance your opponent is going to have units with 4 or more attack, which means that your police line just won't get to attack in and kill things. Now, in fairness, you could intervene there. Perhaps you drop, well, I doubt you'd be running Migos, but I'm trying to think of it. I can't think of a better card off the top of my head. But maybe you drop a Migos, give it a +1 health, and then it gives it the health it needs to attack into something without dying. And even though it would lose the buff with the silence, again, because it's still taking the damage, it doesn't matter anyway. Maybe cards like that give health buffs or stat buffs help police line get over the finish line, like the last kind of push they needed to be good. Perhaps, but it just sounds like a lot of work. I'll say this: I definitely am not counting this card out. I think that if aggressive decks are really screwing over your deck, running a crime scene would be huge. Because aggressive decks, you probably are going to be able to kill most of their stuff with a police line without the police line dying. And so that means it will usually just wipe their board and fill your board with taunts for 8, which is huge. But against mid-range, I feel like there's almost always just going to be one huge unit that you need to have dealt with, and you're going to use Crime Scene and deal 3 damage, and that'll be it. Or maybe, well, okay, that's being a bit harsh. Realistically, I think you'll probably get 1 attack in, and like 1 like living police line that survives with Taunt, and then the other one you'll just be like, oh, I guess I'll just smack this into this big unit. It won't kill it, but I mean, it'll deal 3 damage, I guess. And of course, it'll just stop there. So yeah, and I think it's the same story against Control. And of course, Combo doesn't care about the board, so there's not really much point in having all that board control. So I feel like this only exists to screw over aggro. So yeah, I think this deck card is still playable because it screws over aggro hard. And if your deck loses to aggro, run it. However, if you're not really worried about countering aggro, I feel like this card is gonna be a lot of work to make it worthwhile, which probably won't be worth it in the end. We've got Petrification for Perseverance. That is 7, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. Which kills a monster and summons a petrified monster in its place. Wrong hits, by the way. So the petrified monster's over here. It's a token, 4 cost 1, 6 with disarmed, which means it can't attack. And at the end of its turn, it will die and deal 2 damage to all of the monsters. So this is pretty strong. 8 cost kill something, and then also deal 2 damage to everything else. Definitely worth 2 gold, even if it hits your own stuff. It does have the downside of you have to use it on an enemy if you want the kill to be on an enemy, which you will most of the time. And if you do, then the turn end will come after the end of the enemy's turn, so they have a turn to react to the 2 damage AoE. So that would make this card weaker. You can use it on your own units to get the instant AoE if you need it. But I like those mind games. That's a very interesting card design. I suppose... I almost kind of wish this card was cheaper and its ability was to deal 2 damage to all enemy monsters. Because then if you killed an enemy, then the enemy monsters to this would be your monsters. So you would board clear your own board but kill an enemy, or you could kill one of your own allies and board clear the enemy's side. That would be interesting. Although I suppose the way it is right now with the numbers it has currently, that would be way too weak on the board clear side most of the time. I don't know. But either way, I still like the card. Again, there's still a reason to kill your own and a reason to kill the opponents, because if you kill your own, as I say, you get the AoE instantly, and maybe you really need that. I like this card overall. I think it's going to be actually quite commonly run, despite the fact that it seems inefficient when you look at stuff like Contamination, which seems to do this job but better, just because it is an unconditional kill. And even though I think the AoE is often going to be played around pretty hard, I think the AoE is just like an extra little bonus, which will sometimes be helpful. I think this is more just going to be used as an 8-cost killer monster. And it might seem like 8-cost killer monster's bad, but like I don't know. I actually think the 8-cost killer monster would be playable in a soul that doesn't have a direct kill like Justice has headshot. So yeah, even if it is an 8-cost killer monster, 8-cost killer monster that's sometimes better than that, I think is actually worthwhile. I know that contamination is typically better, but of course this is unconditional, which I think is just very valuable. That consistency is easy to undervalue. Anyway, finally we got a new legendary, the Reflection. I have no idea what its art is going to look like when it's actually properly done and not a meme. But for right now, it is a 9-cost 9/9, which requires there to be 30 or more monsters in both dust piles. And when played, it will set the enemy's max HP to their current max. To their current... Okay, sorry. I read this wrong with the brackets. To their current HP. Okay, so... Oh. I will say, that was not what I was expecting for this. So it seems that this is... essentially prevents your opponent from healing. So if you get your opponent down to, like, 15 health, you can just be like, right, that's your maximum health now. Can't get any more health if you don't, no matter what you do. Unless you play cards like, Innkeeper or whatever, I guess. But now you can't heal past that point. I'm not going to lie. I don't know. Am I misreading this, or is this bad? Like, this is really hard to evaluate, because I don't think we've ever really had anything besides Poke, so not a real card in the game, that genuinely just decreases the enemy's maximum HP. We have the Genocide artifact with Kara, but that decreases your own maximum HP whenever you want. Forcing the enemy to reduce their maximum HP whenever you want. I don't know how valuable that is. Like, I think that it could theoretically be valuable if you could set it really low. But then that would kind of be cancer, which is why, obviously, they've made it so it can't go lower than 15. And I think if 15's the best you can do, I don't know, that kind of sounds bad. I don't know, I guess it could maybe get you in range for combo decks, but then this card feels like it's supposed to be for a control deck, or maybe a hybrid control burn. Because if it's a combo deck, you need 30 monsters in both dust piles, and your combo, you probably aren't playing enough monsters to fill those dust piles, because you don't care about the board, you care about your combo. I don't know, I suppose you could just fill some slots with ice butterflies, which obviously that's 2 units in 1 for 1 gold. But, I don't know, that still sounds like a bit of a meme. So in theory, an effect like this is most useful in combo to make sure that your opponent can't heal outside your kill range. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think I think that the most realistic place this becomes useful is a control hybrid burn. Like, again, mostly a control deck, but with a kind of burn win condition of just having a decent amount of charges as well as a decent amount of value. Stuff like Cop Undyne and all that. And then they just send everything face and make sure that you can't heal. But I don't know, again, that sounds like such a meme, and it sounds like if you wanted to do that, just do that without the Reflection. I mean, this need isn't too hard to meet, because it counts both dust piles. If it was just yours, it would be a problem. But since it's both dust piles, I think this need isn't too hard to meet before the end of a game. However, when you do meet it, it will be close to the end of the game, I think. And it's going to be really deep in. So I don't think combo can live. No, combo can't get away with this. You're not going to get enough monsters in the dust pile before you need to have your combo, or you lose. Unless you're against a super stally deck. Yeah, I don't know. This card's idea interests me, but I have to admit I don't think it's good for a good idea. I think it's a bit too early to say it's not good for the game, which is what I was about to say. I just feel like this ability is always going to be utter garbage, or if it's good, it's going to be cancer. There's no in between. I feel like if this ability is ever good, then it means that degenerate combos are taking over, which just force you into a situation where there's nothing you can do to counterplay. And if this is not good, which I think is what's going to happen, then it's garbage. It's literally basically got no point at all, except a niche option for control hybrid burn decks to get some assurance the opponent can't heal too far out of range. Yeah, nah, I think that's all I've got to say. Like, I'm thinking about it and I'm thinking, is there something I'm missing here? But unless I misunderstand what this card is, because this is a very kind of confusingly worded ability, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Okay, let me just double check one more thing. I'm just gonna say this for like assurance, like to as like a backup for just in case I'm wrong here. But I'm pretty sure this isn't the case. It could be that the fact they said maximum 15 isn't a misprint, and it's actually that if they have more than 15 health, it sets them to 15. And actually, if they have 1 health, you can actually set them to 1 maximum health. If that's the case, this becomes better. But that would be really weird. That'd be really weirdly worded. To be fair, it does say maximum. Basically, if you're wondering, I was thinking this means minimum, but they put maximum by accident. As in, it can't be less than 15 maximum health. Which would make sense, because that could allow for some degenerate combos. But I'm realizing that might just be a condition to make sure this card isn't garbage if your opponent hasn't taken any damage. In fact, if that's the case, this card is good, because you use this to halve the opponent's health. You just suddenly decide, oh hey, you're at 30 health, psych, now you're at 15, and you can't heal past that. If that's the case, this is a 9-cost 9/9 that deals 15 damage. That's huge. Even with the condition, I think that's a great card. In fact, it's even better against Innkeeper decks or decks with health as their artifact. But I don't know. I'm actually starting to think that might be it, because that would explain why this card seems so terrible from my first look at this card. But if that is it, this is extremely weirdly worded. And I'm very concerned of the implications of having your max health set to single digits. But I suppose you had to be at that lower health pool to start with anyway, so probably fine. And again, very conditional. Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm wrong about this card. We'll see which one it is. But as I say, if it is genuinely max, if that's what it means, then I will say that is very powerful, but not to actually get their health low and set it to that number. It's very powerful to keep their health high and then suddenly just halve it. I'm getting nervous now because I know that the Undercards devs look at Hearthstone cards, and I'm realizing that if this worked like that, this would kind of be like Alexstrasza, and that makes me think that might actually be how this works. Well, anyway, K round got cost decrease, so now it costs 4. K round is a collectible card. Wait, just a moment. K round. It isn't, is it? Oh, no, it's not a collectible card. Oh yeah, but it's C. I guess it's just if it gets returned to your hand, it's now a 4 cost instead of a 5 cost, but that feels weird. Whatever. I suppose that's good. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this change just because it's why? I don't know. Was it a common occurrence that people would bounce your K rounds back into your hand and you'd be like, damn, I would wish I didn't have to pay 5 for this. I wish I was paying 4 for it instead. I don't know. That just sounds very specific. But, sure. I guess I don't have a problem with it. Grilling King. Cost goes down from 13 to 12. Oh, Grilling King. Oh, boy. This poor card. Grilling King over here is 12 cost 5/6, which you have never played before, most likely. The only person I've ever seen who's played this card. If you have more monsters in your dust pile in your deck, summon a 5/5 cake and 2 3/3 spin cakes. And that cake is the Mettaton cake. It's just a 5/5 version instead of a 10/10 version. As in, it has, it's off the screen, but it has haste, taunt, candy, and when it dies, it heals 3 to all allies, both monsters and you yourself. And the spin cakes are just 3/3s with no abilities. So, I had faith in this card when I first saw it, which was when I returned to Undercards. I don't know when it was first added. Because I thought, Yeah, there's a lot of situations where a game goes really long and you're not even necessarily a dust pile deck. You just have been playing the game really long and you want a finisher, and you've been playing so long that there are more monsters in your dust pile in your deck. You played like 10, 15 monsters this game, and you're down to the last 10 or so cards of your deck, and so you can play Grilling King and have this huge swing. I really thought this made sense in my head. Like, I thought, I mean, come on, there's so many ways to swap out cards if you don't want them in undercards. It's such a huge finisher in theory because it's so many stats, and even if they do kill them all, you still get some heal off of it and some general protection. I don't know, I just looked at this and I thought, this seems really powerful. And I tried playing it multiple times in multiple different decks, all control based, and game after game after game, like, I don't know what it is. It's like a curse. Like, I would get this card in my starting hand constantly and not be able to get rid of it. And it would constantly break my hands. And on top of that, I would almost always not be able to play it and then die the turn before I would be able to. Like, I need to draw one more card from my deck for it to be activated. And a lot of the times, I'd even get the ability to draw another card so that I could get there. But to do that, I'd have to spend so much gold that I couldn't afford to play it. So, yeah, this card just seems to be cursed. I've tried to play it so much, and now I see why no one plays it. In theory, it makes a lot of sense, but in practice, it's just always too awkward. It always gets stuck in your starting hand. It always comes down one turn too late, or doesn't even come down at all. It always costs just a little bit too much for you to be able to afford it. So, I will say this, I appreciate the effort to make it cheaper. I appreciate the bump going down in cost. That being said, 13 to 12 seems like nothing to me. I don't think it changes anything. I think this card still sees no play, which I hate to say because I do like this card. It just, nah, it ain't it. I think that 13 to 11, maybe I would have raised an eyebrow. 13 to 10, that would be huge. To be fair, 13 to 10 would probably be too much. But 13 to 11, I might be like, maybe. But 13 to 12, no, nah, no, nope, 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 nope. Anyway, Onion San been buffed to have one more health. Is that significant? Potentially. Onion San is just a massive wall of stats, which can also come with some burn. Hard to say. You know what? Yeah. To be honest, I already thought Onion San was kind of good before. I don't know why they're buffing them. I suppose that awkward to put in a deck is the thing. But in terms of just pure stats, like, this is just a huge unit that comes with more stats with no condition, except just that you play it either on the middle, like on one of the middle two spaces. Yeah, this is, I mean, not much to say. I don't think this changes the playability of the card that much. I think this is an already good card that got slightly better. It's an even bigger wall of stats now. Okay, not much to say there. Devil Doll got buffed to cost 5 instead of 6. Oh, yes, very, very much warranted. I like to see this, I will say. However, I'll also say I don't think this helps the turbo deck, if that's what they want. I think this just means this card gets run more in decks that don't have turbo synergy, but just want to run this card for a way to punish damaged monsters. If they want this to be support for the turbo archetype, they need to add more significant turbo effects. Like, Devil Dolls is a relatively significant one, but other than that, there's really not that many big turbos, and Reverberation is an absolute joke as a result. Devil Doll is definitely one of the best turbos, though, and this makes it slightly better. Definitely, it costing 5, that's a good break point. That makes it much more affordable, much more flexible to place down when needed, which is important for a super conditional card like this. As I say, this card in particular, I think, is made very strong by this. I just think that the archetype it's made for probably still doesn't look that great. Ice Drink Wolf has gotten an extra health point. Warranted, probably doesn't change much. Ice Drink Wolf is a fine card. You've got good stats, as you can see, and you get to choose between an ice cap, or a snowman, and add that card to your hand. I've looked at this card before and thought, in theory, why have I never played this? This is good in theory. And I think the answer just comes down to you probably can't find a deck that would want both an ice and an ice cap. I don't think any deck ever wants the snowman unless it's got an empty hand, which is rare in undercards, considering, you know, how easy it is to get an absolute crap ton of draw. So, Yeah, I think that this card would its main utility would be to get ice caps as extra reach in a deck that's like mid range. But then it's better to just run 3 ice caps. Now, in fairness, if you actually are in a situation where you're like, well, I'm already running 3 ice caps and I want more, this seems fine. But that's, I don't know, I just feel like that's not a very common situation. If the third, I think this is the big thing. Even if it was something really niche, if the third option was something better, I think this card would be like really good. Like even if it was just something stupid, like I don't know. Okay, this wouldn't be good design probably, but even if it was something really niche, like that third option was like kill a snail or whatever, or kill a plug or whatever, just some weirdly specific tribe, or kill a monster that costs exactly 5 or whatever. If it was a card that did something niche but powerful, if it works like that, I think that the fact of having that third option be useful would probably be enough to make this card's flexibility actually worthwhile. The problem is that I don't think there's really a high roll here. I think you always pick ice. Sorry, you always pick ice cap. If you're running this in a deck for the most part, you sometimes pick ice if you're going to die otherwise, and you never pick snowman. And so, as I say, it's kind of just like a more expensive ice cap. It's ice cap with extra steps a lot of the time. But again, that's not terrible. Ice cap is a really good card. This is pretty good stats. It's 7 cost, which is, convenient. Maybe the +1 health helps it a bit. I think this is getting close to being there, but as I say, I just think the snowman is a garbage option. I wonder if the snowman was a silence and a paralyze instead. That's a thought. Okay, so I don't know. Maybe this would be too annoying, but if it was the silence and paralyze spell from patience instead of snowman as the third option, that would probably be pretty big. That would probably make this card a lot better. Anyway, I'm not saying that would be like objectively better, but I'm just coming up with examples of things that I'm kind of just spitballing ideas here. Because again, that could be really frustrating, and there's obviously implications of a card that's neutral giving you a patience spell. I'm not saying it's a perfect solution, but I just think that it's something that like could make this more playable. Anyway, Laggy TV. Is this the one I think it is that like increases the cost of things to make them stronger? Yes, 4 cost 4/5. Monsters in your hand have +1 cost. Whenever you play a monster, give it +1/+2. So this is a bit of a weird one because we have the inflation artifact from Integrity, which basically does this exact same thing, and that's really good. But then we have this card and no one plays it. And I actually don't know why, because I have to admit, I haven't played it. It's one of those cards, again, that I always want to get around to, but then never actually bother remembering to, like, try it out. And to be fair, I don't know what the deck it would be built around would look like. I guess it would just be an aggro deck that's, like, very vanilla, but it just happens to run this card. I don't know, maybe with a bit of an armor theme, but still. So yeah, this card is obviously used to be a 4/4, now it's a 4/5. That's pretty big. I'm not gonna lie, this might be a scary card now. I know you're looking at it as like, what, it's just 1 extra health, but like 4/4/5 is kind of overstated in undercards, if anything. Most 4/4/5s have a downside. And the best 4/4/5 in the game, like the only one that doesn't really have a downside in most situations, is Yarn Ball. This is like a Yarn Ball, but it's, even though this can be a downside, this is basically like always an upside, basically. This is, I mean, we know that inflation artifact is worth it. After, how many integrity decks absolutely kill as aggro with, oh, I just realized it's called economics, isn't it? Inflation is a spell that gives you the artifact, isn't it? Whatever. Well, anyway, yeah, Laggy TV seems powerful. Coat Rack. Oh, this, yes, Coat Rack. 6 cost 5/7, draw 2 cards, give drawn monsters +1/+1/+1. This card has always interested me, and I'm glad they gave it +1/+1. Because I feel like this card has always been close to playable, but never been there. I've never seen anyone play it. But I've always been willing to try it, I just feel like we just haven't seen it pop off. Because even though it seems kind of stupid to increase the cost of cards you draw, again, big stats just matter in undercards, and there's certain cards that get a lot of benefit just from that +1/+1. And I think as long as you're running a deck where you can make enough gold and you just want as much value in every card you draw as possible, I think this is well worth it. And I think the only reason it was held back is because, again, there's so much efficient drawing undercards, and this was one of the only ones that wasn't that efficient. I mean, a 6 cost 4 6 that draws 2 cards with a small downside, because the buff is technically usually a small downside. It's fine enough, but fine enough really doesn't cut it when you look at, again, stuff like Library Sign. I know I keep going to it, but that's just a really good example. 6 cost 5 4 draw 3. Oh wait, it's a 6 cost 5 5 now. We'll get to that later. So yeah, but 5/7 is some chunky stats. So yeah, this could actually make this card more than just playable. It could actually make it good, dare I say? Maybe. It depends if the Library Sign buff in this same patch blows it out of the water, because yes, this card, I always bring it up a lot as a very powerful card, although you need to build around it and you need to make sure your deck empties your hand fast enough, and now it's even more powerful. It is just 1 extra health, and on this card I think it's less significant because it started out smaller, but I think it still matters because you're usually playing this in decks that care about tempo, usually mid-range, or you might be using it as a tutor for combo, but usually mid-range. That's when it's most relevant to have that 1 extra health. What can I say? It's just it's amazing stats considering that it's coming with 3 cards that are essentially tutored, so you have a good idea what they're all going to be. Very, very powerful. But I mean, this card was already good, so probably won't change much. Hot Dog Vulcan has gone from 4 attack to 5, so they're now a 7 cost 5/6 that deal 3 damage to an enemy or give +3 attack to an ally monster. Yeah, that makes sense. So this was you can essentially kind of think of this as a 7 cost 8/6 right now, but with the small upside that the 3 of that damage is instant, and that is worth it, I think. And this card used to be a 4/6, and even though it's just 1 less attack, thinking of it as a 7/6 before, which only had that 3 extra damage, did make it feel a little bit eh. At least as an 8/6 in total, it starts to feel a little bit more like you're not gutting your stats just to get that slight bit of burst damage, because, I mean, it is more significant than it sounds because of how burst damage becomes exponentially more valuable the more of it you have. But still, when you say it out loud that you're paying 7 just to get 3 instant damage on an understated unit, it really does make it look very questionable running this card. I feel like this card it seems relatively popular. I feel like this card has always been okay, like you can run it and it's fine, but I feel like it might be a bit overrated. Now with the +1 attack, yeah, I don't... It's all right. I think that it's now probably not overrated anymore, but still probably not like a card I'd be putting into all my aggro decks. Maybe just a few decks that would warrant running this. I know that sounds like a whole lot of nothing. I don't know. It's hard to really say much about a card like that. It's very straightforward. Anyway, Sans has apparently been given charge. Yeah, I think that's literally the only change as well. Yeah, they just gave him charge. I suppose he is a 1/1, so probably fine. I don't think there's any way I can think of that charge and dodge can in combination become like garbage, like just terrible for like the game, like just pull off some stupidness. I can't think off the top of my head anyway those would combine in a catastrophic way. So yeah, I suppose it's just a small extra use case for Sans. Yeah, there's not much to say about it. Just sometimes you'll get that 1 extra damage and win the game off of it, I guess. Gaster has received an effect update, which I like, but it's labeled as a buff, and is it a buff? I might be misunderstanding this, so let me double read it. Effect update: haste magic. Trigger all synergy effects you triggered this game. Can only trigger the same effect up to 2 times. Now, I'm trying to remember if it was not that before. Because, okay, basically, what I thought this is the same as the old version, but they just added can only trigger the same effect up to 2 times. If that was the case, I'd say that's a good change for the game at large, because it constantly triggering kill a random enemy monster off of Gonakid was super annoying, even though it was also necessary to make this card good. Again, still super annoying. So I like that that's now something that can only happen up to 2 times. But I'm confused because isn't that a nerf? Was it not all synergy effects before? Was it like a limited amount? I swear it was always all synergy, unless I'm wrong. Or did this not used to have haste? I feel like it did have haste always, though. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about this. Either way, as I say, I think this is a healthy change for the game. I think that Gaster decks shouldn't rely on just spamming insta kills to permanently lock your opponent out of the board if you actually get the ability to, pull off your like Gaster combo at the end. However, I do think that Gaster was already in a bit of a rough position, although I think they were competitively playable. Now Gaster looks garbage to me. So I hope that in future they're going to either add more synergy cards or they're going to buff the synergy package in general to compensate. Well, anyway, the Vessel received a small effect update. And again, am I stupid or is this a nerf? I mean, I'm not complaining about it because it seems fine. It's a 9... Wait, was it a 9... Wait, hang on a minute. No, yeah, it was a 9 cost. Yeah, for a second I thought it was a 10 cost. No, it was always a 9 cost. When played, it will add 1 exact copy of a non-DT ally monster to your hand and 3 to your deck. And then turn into the True Vessel. Which is still the same. It's still just a 6/6 with no abilities. So, you might be looking at this card and wondering what the difference is. Well, the first thing I spot is non-DT ally monster. This can no longer duplicate DT monsters, which, I'm not going to complain too much about that. I wasn't doing that, obviously, because in rank, you can only run 1 DT, so the only way you would ever get to copy a DT with the Vessel would be pulling some absolute shenanigans, and while those shenanigans are very fun and very humorous, I can see how they're worried about the implications of making that a regular thing, that like if you get lucky enough you can set up a situation where you can get multiple copies of your opponent's game-winning DT and just completely flip the game off of pure luck. I can see how that can get frustrating. I can see why they thought to probably remove that ability. But then I'm looking at what the buff is here, since again this is labeled as a buff, and the only thing I can think is I'm not sure if it put 3 copies in your deck before, or if it was 2. It might have been 2. I think it used to be 2, and I think that's why this is labeled as a buff. Which, honestly, that seemed a little bit weird to me, that they decided to make this card even stronger, because it's considered one of the best DTs in the game. But I suppose I don't have a problem, because I think the Vessel is the most fun DT in the game, so... Great. Oh, wait! Oh! I just realised! Okay, right, okay. Never mind, I just realised what the buff is, and I don't... Okay, I'm confused, but I'll take it. So, I'm not sure if it also... It didn't use the Shuffle 3, but it turns into the True Vessel, and it keeps buffs. I saw the keeps buffs, but I kind of assumed they meant that the copies that you shuffle into your deck keeps buff, and I thought maybe they just put that there to like make it clearer to newer players. Because when they see exact copy, not every newer player instantly understands that means that the buffs carry over. But I realise now that means actually it keeps its buff when it transforms to the True Vessel. Okay. Oh, right, okay. I like that, because it was kind of frustrating. I remember when in my Determination Sandog duplication decks, I ran Royal Papyrus in those to as a backup way to both stay alive, but also give my Sandogs haste and taunt if I didn't get the amalgamates that I needed. It was really frustrating because I would almost always hit the Vessel with that buff, but then it would lose the buff. It would lose the haste and taunt when it transformed into the True Vessel. Now it looks like it's going to keep that. I was a bit confused at first when I read this because I'm like, wait, isn't the whole point of it transforming into the True Vessel to prevent you from keeping buffs on it? So why is it still transforming into the True Vessel if, it's going to keep buffs now? But I suppose it's so that you can't return it to your hand with integrity and recur that magic effect, which I guess makes sense. Anyway, Vase, which I believe... or Vase. I always forget which one the American one is, and which one the British one is. I think Vase is the British pronunciation. It got buffed, which is, by the way, this is not a collectible card, but you get it off of Vase Breaker. Summon a Vase. If you have less monsters than the opponent, summon another. And the Vase used to not have haste, and now it has haste. If you don't remember what it does, it's 2-cost 3/3. It now has haste, and when it dies, if it died during the enemy turn, it gives whatever killed it -1/-1. I think this is a well-warranted buff. I think this card was generally underpowered. I think it still saw some play, but I feel like that was mostly just because there were some Justice decks that just wanted a card to play for when they hit a stalemate of both, like, you and your opponent are really good at wiping out everything that each other play, and you're like, well, god damn it, like, I've got all these cards in my hand, but they all kill the stuff the opponent plays, and my opponent's not playing anything. I'll just put this spell in my deck, because I can use it to kill the opponent's things, but I can also use it just to put stuff on the board if we hit a stalemate. Other than that, I feel like this card was not really very useful, like, at all. It was really hard to hit this condition, because I didn't realize, actually, until I had a confusing realization at one point, that the less monsters than your opponent condition triggers after you summon the first Vase, and it is less, not less than or equal to. So your opponent needs to have 2 more monsters on the board than you for this to actually trigger. It's twice, and obviously just getting a 3/3 for 4 with the ability to potentially give an enemy -1/-1 if the opponent chooses to attack into it is garbage. You had to get that condition to go off for this card to be worthwhile. Now that it has haste, it's going to be a little bit better in the worst case scenario. It's at least a 3 damage instant with potentially some stats left over afterwards if the Vase doesn't die for 4, which, don't get me wrong, isn't good, but at least it's not garbage. At least it's playable. And when the condition actually goes off, it could actually be a big play, even though, again, that's quite a stretch. So, yeah, I still think this card needs more help, but this is definitely going in the right direction. Time to look at some reworks. Frisk. That's pretty huge. Frisk is completely different. And I have mixed feelings. I think generally positive, but mixed. They're now a 7-cost 7/8 with Taunt. And if you have spent 50 gold, I assume that's over the course of the whole game, you turn all cards in your hand and deck into Undertale legendary cards that cost 2 less. Okay, don't get me wrong, this is a fun meme, but, like, okay, if this was a legendary, I would have no complaints. I'd be like, okay, that's a fun card. It's probably, like, half decent in, like, the right deck and all that. But looking at this, knowing that this is a determination card, that you're giving up your determination card slot for this card, and this card has to be run in an enormous kind of control deck that actually is going to spend all this gold and get that value from all those legendaries. Ooh, you know, like, that seems kind of bad. At least it's a 7-cost 7/8 Taunt. That's really good stats. But, like, damn. I think this is still one of the worst DTs in the game. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I hate to say it. It's fun. It's a cool idea, but, like, especially because it's all of your hand and deck. So, like, it's not even like you have the chance to take advantage of the fact you got all these legendaries with stuff like mascots, like Golden Mascot. No, you just get a deck and hand of random garbage, which technically should be high value and on average better than the average card, but it's not going to have any synergy, and on top of that, it's going to be your long-term game plan to win, and it's taking up your determination card slot. Like, you could run Kara instead of this, you could run a Mega Flower instead of this, I would run Angel of Death over this. Ugh. I hate to say it, because it looks fun, but it's just garbage. It's just garbage. How do you make this card good? Because I don't want to just trash it and be like, garbage, I hate it. Because, like, I understand why they changed it. The previous version of Frisk was extremely niche, and it had its moments where I think it was decent in the past few months. A few months ago. But, like, in the past, like, almost half a year, not sure if it's quite that long, but for quite a while, 4 months about, it's not quite that long, but still, for the past few months, I think that Frisk has consistently been underwhelming. It was good at countering gemstones when it was stupid overpowered, but even then, gemstones were so stupidly overpowered that even though Frisk was probably the best counter in the game against it, you could still beat Frisk if you were gemstones. Like, a huge Frisk would not necessarily mean that you would lost the game if you were gemstones. So yeah, even then, like, he was one of the only cards that could counter gemstones, but even then, it wasn't a hard counter. And there were some situations where, like, you could actually realistically go to mill and use it as a card to win in the ultra late game. But definitely in the most recent months, the old version of Frisk has been garbage, useless for the most part against basically every relevant deck. And so I'm fine with them changing the ability and making them something completely new. I don't know about this. I still kind of like the theme of the old one, of like this protection and this extremely long-term game plan with them. And this feels like it's getting for that same kind of energy. The protection not so much, but the extremely long-term game plan with the need that it has. But the actual benefit is just garbage. It's like, literally, I don't know what else to say. It's garbage. And I don't know how you make an effect like this good, because, like, I don't know how you make a good long-term game plan out of turning all these cards in your deck into legendaries. Like, literally, like, I'm thinking, like, how do you make this good? You have to make it like cards with -6 cost or something, and obviously that sounds stupid, but like, honestly, I think that it would take that much for this to be good. Oh boy. Well, anyway, enough negativity on that. Asriel has been reworked. Oh, they're finally a legendary. I'm surprised it took this long. There are 6 cost 5/6. Delay. Add all anime monsters that died this turn except Asriel to your deck. Huh. I was reading this and expecting it to say hand. Deck. I think that's good. I don't know. I have to think about that, because it's basically no instant benefit. It's just a 6 cost 5/6 when you first play it. And I can't think of that many cards that would get such a huge benefit from this. That, okay, the thing is, it's the reason why I'm cautiously thinking this might be good, despite how bad this. I just realized it's a 5/5. Why did I say it was a 5/6? I'm actually blind. Well, anyway, even though this seems like an awful upfront benefit, and it seems like it takes so long to pay off, the main reason I'm still looking at this like, oh, maybe that is good, is because there's no non-DT condition on this. This can duplicate DT cards. It's a very memey way to duplicate them. You have to play the DT card, have it die on your turn, play Asriel on the turn that it dies, put it back in your deck, and then retreat it from your deck. Don't get me wrong, it's a lot of work, but any way to duplicate DTs is always quite intimidating. And this is just a neutral legendary any deck can run that's not even that expensive. So yeah. And just besides that, there's like, you know, a certain amount of like cards which just get so much benefit from being duplicated that even if they aren't DTs, it's like quite a big deal if they get duplicated. I'm interested to see if they keep their buffs, because since it isn't a copy, I'd have to imagine they must keep their buffs. And if it was a copy, we could tell by whether it said exact copy or not. But since it just says add them to your deck, if they keep buffs, this is huge. This is actually like an amazing card in disguise, even though it doesn't seem that great if they keep their buffs. If they don't, it's probably a niche, powerful card, but it probably requires a lot of work to make good. And it might be one of those cards where we don't see it become strong straight away, but it comes to like bite us back later. Anyway, apparently C-Round has also been buffed, which apparently I didn't see when I glimpsed at it earlier. C-Round. Second round is a 3-cost 3/3 now. Add 2 crowns to your deck. If this isn't generated by C-Round, add C-Round to your hand. Okay, I like this. I like this. I really didn't like the fact that C round used to be infinite. Like, it used to be every time a C round died, it just went back to your hand and back to your hand and back to your hand. I like now that you get 2 C rounds, but that's it. And to compensate, you get more crowns in your deck faster. It makes C round decks feel a lot less repetitive and a lot less grindy to fight against and play as. So, yeah, nothing but positive things to say about this change. If you don't know what the crown is, the crown will give a monster +1/+2, but it's mostly supposed to be used on a C round, because if you use it on a C round, instead of giving it +1/+2, it will transform it into a K round, which, as you saw before, is a 4-cost 7/7 with haste and candy. So obviously just enormous stats, basically. So yeah, annoying dog rework. Interesting that they reworked it so fast after it got its last rework. Let's see what it does. 3 cost 2/4, taunt delay, add dog resist. Oh no, it's the same thing. Add dog resist to your hand. If this attack boost, you add another one. Oh, is it just that they gave it 1 extra health and. Sorry, 1 extra attack and 1 less health? Okay, there's not really a rework, it's just shuffling its stats around. Fair. Oh wait, Spamton got changed? Oh, surprised to see that, but might be good. Just went away. Effect update magic dust, yeah, still all those things. Shuffle a Hyperlink block into the opponent's deck. Is Hyperlink block different? Okay, wait, hang on a minute. Let me just double check. This is all the same. We got magic dust, shock support, turn end. Was it also a turn start before? I can't remember. I don't know. I don't think there was a turn start. I think it was just these. I don't know. Was there one more of these before? And Hyperlink blocked hasn't changed, has it? Oh. Oh, wait, is it because it's all the way down here? Right, yeah. Okay, so it has changed. Okay, good. Look, a random token and non-token card in your deck. Choose one to draw and lose 1 HP. Oh, yes. Oh, finally. Okay, I don't know. I don't think this makes. I'm skeptical this makes Spamton good. But thank you, because this card was garbage. Okay, so it was a good meme, but Spamton in its original form was garbage. And the lose 1 HP is the only new change, but that's actually so big because. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Shuffling Hyperlink blocked into your opponent's deck does basically nothing, unless you go for in the extremely long term and shuffle loads of them into your opponent's deck. The problem with them is that, yes, they did cost 1 to play. Oh, they cost 0 to play now, which... no, I'm fine with that. Anyway, they did cost 1 to play, which obviously slowed your opponent down. But the problem with that is that if it did just stuff their deck full of these and they just drew more cards and got more Hyperlink blocks if you shuffled enough into the deck, that would probably be strong. But as you can see, you get to choose whether you draw a token or non-token card with Hyperlink blocked. And since Hyperlink blocked itself is a non-token card, all you'd have to do is select non-token and be guaranteed that if you play 1 Hyperlink blocked, you won't have to use it again to, like, find an actual card from your deck. It's not like there's a chance you'll get another one and another one and another one. No, you will just pay 1 extra gold that turn to get a card from your deck. And as you can imagine, having a chance to maybe have your opponent draw 1 of these and maybe have to spend 1 extra gold than they should have to on 1 turn really wasn't much of an upside, even for a 7-cost 8/6. Yes, if the game goes really long, you're going to get a lot more out of them than just 1 gold. They're eventually going to have to start drawing a whole bunch of these, and they're going to have to start paying 1 gold basically every turn. But what I always found seemed to happen is you'd shuffle, like if you did really try to fill their deck with Hyperlink blocked, you would get, like, 16 of them on the bottom of their deck, but then they would not actually care about that because they would already have gotten all their cards out of their deck, and their deck is just 16 like Hyperlink blocks, and they never pay for Hyperlink blocked again because the only reason they're paid to do it again is because they need to get to the cards in their deck, but they already have them all because, again, every time they draw another Hyperlink blocked, they can just choose to draw a card from their deck instead of another Hyperlink blocked. So, yes, as a very occasional, when your opponent decides, also luck-based, also you have no idea of when it's actually going to help you, thing that sometimes makes your opponent pay 1 more for something or take a little bit longer to find something they need from their deck, garbage. Now that finally it's free, but every time the opponent does it, they slowly lose health, even if it's just 1 health, there's at least now a good reason to want to use this card and actually use it to fill their deck with Hyperlink blocks. because the best way to play Spamton before this was to not even try to fill their deck with hyperlink blocks, to just play him as a 7-cost 8/6, which might just screw them over if they're running a combo deck and they just so happen to get some bad draws and get a bunch of hyperlink blocks. And that wasn't very fun. Considering how much potential this guy has to just jam their deck with hyperlink blocks, it really sucked that that was the worst way to play this card. And now that they lose health every time, again, direct damage, which is essentially what this is, even if the opponent chooses when it happens, is something that gets exponentially better the more of it you have. So even though it's just 1 damage, this gets a lot better if you get a million hyperlink blocks in their deck. And that's much better in terms of just having this card be fun, in my opinion. Overall, I consider this a buff, although I see how it's could be considered a nerf. It certainly makes it slightly less better at disrupting, but it certainly makes it slightly less good at disrupting combo decks now that hyperlink blocked is free. But against just about every other type of deck, this is now better. Anyway, Stoned Lancer. Oh, this is interesting. Is this my fault? Stoned Lancer, 4-cost 3/5, Candy Magic, paralyze this. Oh, this might be my fault. Okay, so, I mean, I say my fault. We've been talking in my server a decent amount about this card. I played very briefly with it, and I had some very, very ridiculous, very stupid, enormous games where I won like 4 turns in with like an enormous Stoned Lancer. But that wasn't because the deck was overpowered. I just high rolled like crazy and had some really fun games. Overall, I didn't do too well with this deck. But I saw other people doing very well with Stoned Lancer decks, and there's definitely someone in my Discord server who's a massive fan of Stoned Lancer and has really been pushing him as far as they can. You know who you are. But I think they actually genuinely have the highest like friendship level on Stoned Lancer out of every player in the game, if I remember right. Although someone's coming to challenge his title, I hear. But apparently this might have been too powerful because now they just completely nerfed him into the ground. For those who do not remember the sacrifice this card made, what it used to be like, because it was a very rarely played card, despite being part of the Deltarune Chapter 2 cards. It was very rarely played because it was very awkward to work with, and you really had to do a lot to make it good. But if you did put in that effort, it was enormous. I think it was always a 4-cost. I don't think it was a 3-cost. I think it doesn't say the cost has changed. Yeah, it's a 4-cost, and I think it was a 0-2. It was a 0-2 or like a 0-1 that had Candy and Transparency, and it had delay. Give itself +1/+1 and an extra +1/+1 for every single spell you've played this turn. I think it didn't count because spells that cost 0, if I remember right. But other than that, for every spell, it was Shock actually. Sorry, it was Shock. Gain +1/+1 specifically, and then it lost its Shock with the delay and gave it +1/+1. So yeah, basically, the more spells you played on the turn you played Stone Lancer, the bigger it would get. And that on its own would be very memey and not good if it weren't for the fact that it had both Candy on it, which means having it be huge is relevant, and Transparency, which means your opponent couldn't just headshot it, at least on the turn it was played. So, yeah, getting a huge Stone Lancer was an enormous game-winning play. The only problem was actually getting a big Stone Lancer in the first place. It's a 4-cost card up front that then requires you to play multiple spells that need to cost at least 2, all in one turn. You really needed to save up loads for that one enormous turn for it to actually work. But if you could, the reward was in turn enormous. Now this is very watered down, but I suppose I don't mind this card. I mean, I'm a little bit sad to see such a glorious meme be killed so brutally, but I will admit I don't mind the card that's replaced it, because I've been kind of frustrated beforehand that it felt like lots of Candy cards were just getting nuked into the ground, and it almost felt like they just didn't want this keyword to exist. And now it feels like we're getting some more reasonable Candy cards that could actually be run, and I think this is one of them. Candy is very effective on any card that's a good target for a buff. This is very survivable at 5 health for 4. 3 attack is a reasonable amount, and even though it can't attack on the turn it's played, having Candy means it's very likely to survive for that first turn, and then afterwards, if you get some buffs on this could easily snowball and really be strong in the early game, and just be a really powerful trading tool. So yeah, I don't mind this rework. In fact, it probably makes the card better, honestly, in terms of competitiveness. But yeah, definitely way less high rolly. Seat of the Gods. Oh, this could be a huge change. I'm not looking at what it is until it comes up here. Seat of the God. 5 cost. 5 cost taunt, magic, switch. Give -1 cost to cards with 9 or more base costs in your hand or deck or hand. Delay draw a card. Okay. Okay. I'm sad, but I'm not going to say it's wrong. Seat of Gods, for those of you who didn't know, very few of you most likely, was a 2-cost 1/3 that would look at the top 2 most expensive cards of your deck, and you could just pick one and draw it. That was super, super powerful. Because often the most expensive cards of your deck are usually the build-around cards in your deck that you really want to get every single game, and a lot of the time they're determination or legendary cards you can only run 1 copy of. So being able to run a card that you could run 3 copies of that was not bad stats for an extremely cheap cost that drew you a card in its place, and on top of that it was a choice between 2 cards which are likely both going to be enormous build-around cards that you want every game. This card was a staple in competitive deck after competitive deck after competitive deck, and for good reason. So, this rework is warranted. This card was definitely too powerful. It was the most powerful tutor card in the game, I think, quite easily. And even other legendaries and, like... Honestly, this was better than using Alphys for Royal Perseverance. Not Perseverance, Patience. So, that's probably a good sign of just how too strong it was. It is sad to see it go, because it does reduce consistency. But again, I suppose that gives more value to Patience deck searching, which I do kind of like. And I will say, I do like this new effect. The idea that you can either use this to discount things in your hand, or more likely things in your deck, to get some extremely long-term value, while still getting a taunt that also draws you a card. I mean, it's just a lot of good things bundled at once. The only thing is I'm a little bit disappointed it's only -1 cost. Especially because it has to be 9 or base cost. I feel like they could have done a little bit more than just -1, like even -2. Just that 1 extra reduction would probably make this a lot better. -1's a bit disappointing, to be completely honest. But yeah, I like this new idea as a card. I like the fact that it's a taunt, a draw, and a deck-wide buff all at the same time. Those are 3 things that I'll definitely like to see, and I definitely think they'll work together quite well. And the option to be able to discount your hand instead, if you need that instantly, is very nice as well. Okay, so how many more do we have actually? We're starting to get close to the end. Pond Queen, was that the next one? I've lost my place now. Yes, Pond Queen. Pond Queen. So yeah, this is Pond Queen. Add endgame, burn 15 pieces in your dust pile to fill your hand with pawn men with a +3 attack and dodge 1. I'm not gonna lie, I lost track of what Pawn Queen even did last update. I'm not going to talk much about this. I think what's different is it didn't used to give both +3 attack and dodge 1, and now it does. I think originally it was a switch between the 2 of them, and then they made it, I think, just always dodge, if I remember right, and now they've made it both. Really can't make up their mind, I suppose, but okay. Okay, Noelle has received a change. Not Snoelle, Noelle. They're now a legendary, and it looks like a certain card for a certain video that is probably going to come out directly after this one, even though I did most of the work for it before this video is being recorded. Is about to actually be in the game for real. This is a card I was going to cover in my custom cards video, and I say I still am. But it looks like it's made it into the actual game. It is a 6-cost 3/4 with effect update. Need. You spent gold on spells last turn. Magic casts the highest cost spell from your deck and targets the monster in front of this if possible. Okay. So the custom card version is a little bit different. The custom card version was a 5-cost, which they already acknowledged that 5 is probably a little bit too cheap, so I'm not surprised it went to 6. But it used to be cast the high cost spell from your deck, targets an enemy monster if possible. So the idea was if you pulled a headshot, it would still hit a random target, but you'd be guaranteed whatever target it is, it's an enemy. Whereas this seems to be, you would use it, you would actually be able to aim the headshot as long as the space opposite the Noelle was open, which is interesting. That makes it definitely stronger. So yeah, this probably isn't a surprise to you, but this card basically exists to be a really cool and powerful turn for for Justice specifically, because most of the souls don't get an enormous benefit from this. Well, I say that. They do have a lot of... Oh, actually... Okay. There are a lot of new spells, which when I first looked at this card, I didn't take these new spells into account, because obviously I didn't know they were going to exist. I suppose this with Duck Off is fine. I don't know, I guess the big spells are, of course, Petrification and Crime Scene. You know what, maybe this is good with Perseverance now that we've got Petrification, but yeah, you would use this with Justice is definitely the biggest one, because even without Crime Scene, which we now know is going to be another big spell for this to pull, this could be used on... Powerhouse, which doesn't need to target anything, and Noelle would be a 6-cost 3/4, which draws 2 cards and discounts every card in your hand by 2. Pretty huge. You'd essentially get a 1 gold discount and a 3/4 for free, bundled with your oh my god, why is my brain stop? Powerhouse. So yes, quite powerful, but more importantly, Headshot. If Headshot is the most expensive spell in your deck, you can obviously use this as a free 3/4 that comes with your Headshot. And yeah, I think that is significant. You might be like, oh, it's only a 3/4, it's a lot of conditions, but if you aren't already aware, then I think you should understand the importance of bundle value in card games. A very simple way to put it is, say you have a card that costs 2 to deal 3 damage. Say you also have a 2-cost 2/3. Now, actually, this isn't a good example, I suppose. What's a good example? Because I think with simple effects, it's not as clearly demonstrated, but basically the idea is if you have a card that does one thing and a card that does another thing, and say they cost 2 and 3, and you put them together, what should they cost? Most people would probably say 5 if they're newer to card games. And it makes sense, because you pay 2 for this thing, you pay 3 for this thing, so you should pay 5 for them combined, right? But it's actually more than that. It's more than that because you don't just pay 2 gold to play a 2-cost card. You pay 2 gold and you pay a slot in your hand. You pay a card. You need to play that card and remove it from your hand to actually get its effect. So if you wanted to play that 2-cost and that 3-cost, not only would you have the issue of, needing to draw both of them in the first place together, which is less likely than just getting 1 card, but also you would have to spend 2 of the cards in your hand rather than 1. So that is why getting a 3/4 for free with your Headshot is actually quite big, because even though the Headshot itself is still, you're still paying 6 for it, and all you're getting is a 3/4 with it, which is probably worth 3 gold, but even then, maybe a little bit less than 3 gold, maybe 2.5 if we're being realistic. You may be thinking, oh, you're only getting 2.5 extra gold worth of value off of that. Well, you're also kind of quote-unquote drawing a card off of it because of the fact that 3/4 was played without having to sacrifice an extra slot in your hand, which of course means that it would really be more like a 4 gold boost, because, well, drawing a card typically is equal to 1.5 of mana, gold, whatever. Although I suppose in this game, draw is so plentiful, I'm not sure if that would still be true. I don't know, maybe it's not quite 4, but still. Anyway, bundle value matters, basically, and this takes advantage of that. So yeah, I think this is mostly going to be used with Justice. I already thought that before I knew that Crime Scene was going to be a card. Now I see Crime Scene as a card. Oh boy, yeah. I definitely think that looks like a really powerful combo. This is mostly for Justice. However, let's talk about the other possible applications of this. What is the biggest spell in the game? It's Hypergoner. It costs 11, it kills all monsters, and it also burns a card in your hand if you don't have 15 health or less, but you get to choose which one it is. So this with Hypergoner is okay, but I don't think you would actually run this with Determination. There's a reason for that. For one, this isn't as good as it sounds with Hypergoner, even though it has a 5 gold discount on it, and it also kind of tutors it out if you haven't drawn one. At the same time, you don't get the 3/4, because the Hypergoner kills the 3/4. So it's basically just extra steps to get a discount on a Hypergoner. But the thing is, if you're running Hypergoner, you're probably already running a very control-y, very big value deck that probably doesn't need that many discounts. You probably just more care about getting huge value on your cards. And as well as that, Determination doesn't have that much in the way of cheap, powerful spells that they can use to activate the need condition. As well as that, I mentioned this in my custom cards video, but Hypergoner is a very, very, situation dependent card, you get enormous value off of it if you play it the turn before you're going to die, usually. That's usually when you play it, is when you're like, okay, if I don't play it this turn, I'm going to die next turn. Not literally they have lethal on board usually, but they have so close to lethal that you can't take the risk. They might have charge damage in their hand and instantly burst you down and just kill you. So yes, usually that's when you play Hypergoner, and that's when it gets enormous value. The fact that you can't pull it out with Noelle whenever you want, because you need to have met this condition, and you probably won't meet this condition most turns because you don't have good cheap spells to do that with if you're Determination, other than Soul Drain, depending on the deck. And the fact that that means that this gets delayed by one turn, which means you're not playing the Hypergoner when you want to. Basically, I think playing this with Hypergoner is a bad idea. I think maybe playing this with Control Wire isn't a terrible idea, but that still sounds like a bit of a stretch. So yeah, I don't think you do this in Determination. I think Bravery, it doesn't really make sense. You could maybe use it with Ambush for a very powerful tempo swing for one turn, but in the long term, I think that's a bit of a meme. I think that would only be good if a deck really gets a huge benefit from having one massive power spike when their Noelle comes down, of a sudden burst of tempo, and they can use that burst to just win the game right there. If they get pulled further into the game, I think that probably starts to fall apart. I'm just going through them all to be thorough here. I've already talked about Justice. Kindness. Kindness is probably one of the other more interesting ones. You can use this with Test of Will, which, of course, will damage Noelle, but unlike Hypergoner, won't quite kill her. So you'll still get a 3-1 bundled with your Test of Will, as well as a 1 gold discount on it, as well as the fact you're going to be in a soul with better 1-cost spells to activate this need without having to, run garbage. Or not even 1 cost necessarily. Soothing would not be a bad spell to run as an activator for this card. So this is usable in Kindness, I think. In fact, maybe you even use it to pull out Ultimate Heal. Not because it's an expensive spell, but just because maybe you're running a deck where it's very important to get your Ultimate Heal down early every single game, and having a card that can pull it out is important. But I do think it seems like a bit weak in Kindness, even though you can use it. There's Patience. Patience doesn't have any big spells, does it? I'm pretty sure the biggest spell Patience has right now is Snow. Wait, what's it called? Is it Snowfall? It's not that. You know what? I'm just gonna look it up because I don't want to try to describe it when I can just look it up. The 4-cost epic spell that they have. You know what, let me just do that. That went past it. Am I blind? Is it not epic? Oh no, it's not epic, is it? It's Snow Warning, that's it. I think this is the most expensive spell that Patience has. Yep. So Patience, this is garbage. Do not run this with Patience. Do not even try. Garbage. Bad idea. Do not do it. Okay, so that leaves Integrity and Perseverance. Integrity, I think, is a no. The biggest thing you can use it on is Wherefore. Oh, wait. It might be a yes, actually. And for the wrong reasons. Oh, God. Okay. So, I, again, covered this in the custom cards video. I said that you could use it with Whereform. This kind of sucks because now there's a lot of crossover with this in the custom cards video, actually. I knew this card was going to be added to the game. I was actually told by the person who made it, but I didn't realize it was going to be this update. I thought it might be a bit later. But anyway, but basically, I mentioned that Whereform sounds like a powerful thing to pull from it, but the problem is it will always target enemies, which then makes it only useful for lock decks. But then, because it targets a random enemy, for lock decks, it's very likely to hit the wrong enemy and, in fact, do the opposite of lock them and destroy the card that you gave them to lock them out by turning it into a copy of one of their actually useful cards. But the fact that now, in the released version, it's not a random enemy, it's whichever enemy is opposite Noelle, that makes it a lot more concerning because lock can actually target that now. Yikes. I still don't know if Lock wants it, because even though it's a discount on Whereform with some extremely efficient stats, they do have to run the spells to meet its need, but the cheap spells. But then they probably run, I don't know, do Lock decks run investment? I don't play Lock decks, but I feel like they could easily put investment into the deck, and that would be an activator. So yeah, oh god, I really hope that lock decks don't pop off with that, but that could be the thing. And finally, Perseverance. So I was going to say it seems like a bit of a meme to use it with Perseverance as well, but now we've got this new petrification spell. That might be the last piece we needed. Let me double check our Perseverance spells. Wait, what? No, why am I doing it here? Perseverance spells. Yes, so we've got, well, the new one isn't here because I haven't crafted it yet, but we've got the petrification, we got contamination, and we got brain shift. Yeah, it's starting to look like Perseverance might actually have like a serious, like proper use for this card. Considering the only thing I think they had going for it before was Contamination. They did have Brain Shift, but I think the Brain Shift is like probably not worth it a lot of the time. More like a backup plan for if you run out of contaminations. But the thing is, if you use it with Contamination, considering you already can't control when you pull the spell from your deck that much, because again, you need to have it activated in the first place. Considering you also now need 2 damaged enemy monsters, I thought this could be powerful, but it's very conditional. It sounds very inconsistent. If you can make it consistent, that's strong, but I don't think you can yet, maybe in the future. But now that we have a unconditional 8-cost spell, which is a kill guaranteed, which will sometimes do even more, I think that's very much worth it now. I think that's actually a really good idea. So I still think the main thing you use this with. Wait, I've forgotten now if I'm even on the smaller window or the big window. I'm on the big window. I think that you probably. I know I've talked a lot about this card, but it just has a lot of implications. I really like this card, by the way. You probably make it. You probably run it in Justice. You can probably make a Perseverance control deck with it. I don't think anyone else runs it except maybe Kindness. And there's some potential for Bravery to run it in the future, but I'm going to be straight with you. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I'm thinking maybe months from now when the game's looking very different, there might be a deck that can take advantage of that power spike. Because, well, to elaborate a bit more than that on that, because this video is already going to be very long at this point. I was thinking I wouldn't talk about this because it would be too long, but I mean, we're already past the hour mark, I have to imagine. In fact, okay, you know what, I don't mind. Let's have a look. Hour 36. Let's go, Pog. Oh my god. Right, thingy. Where is it? Yeah, Ambush. This with Ambush could be really good, because even though Ambush isn't as expensive as some of these other spells, the thing with Ambush is it has the downside of obviously taking something from your hand while also being a spell in your hand as well. So you're essentially spending 2 cards and 6 gold just to get 1 card from your hand that doesn't even trigger its own playability. But if you have a big 9-cost monster that gets a big benefit off the haste, that doesn't have any unplayability that you're wasting, that you pull out bundled with the Noelle, that is a huge power spike for that 1 turn. And again, if you're running a Bravery deck that can capitalize on that 1 enormous power spike so hard that you almost always win the game off of it, that would be good. The only thing is, as powerful as that sounds, I do think that's a meme. I do think that there's nothing big enough to warrant that to work, especially considering if you do get a lead on the board off of that, obviously the delay comes in and paralyzes it to prevent you from getting lethal off of it. You could run self-silence to remove that paralyze and get the lethal damage. Maybe that's not a meme, but it does kind of sound like a meme. I suppose you can also use the silence on taunts instead, so it's like multi-purpose. But you know, it sounds a little bit memey. I suppose you could run it with Cafe Table. That's interesting. Maybe running it with Cafe Table would be decent, because that removes paralyze without necessarily being silent, and it's also just good stats, which would make sense in a tempo-y deck. But Alright, well, that's enough about that card. More than enough, if anything, actually. Mettaton Fountain. Okay, so never mind, they've killed Locke. Okay, no, they haven't killed Locke, but they've made Locke a lot worse to the point where I imagine it won't be a good deck anymore, thank God. Because they do still have other options besides Mettaton Fountain to lock you out, like the Mace card. I forgot if that's what it's called, but the card that can't attack with Taunt, that if it dies, it deals 4 damage to its killer. Now that they don't have the choice between both of those, the deck's going to be a lot less consistent. It's going to have to put a lot more work to find its cards and get them in your hand and force them out. Anyway, Mettaton Fountain has completely changed, though. It's no longer a can't attack card. It has haste. And it doesn't have taunt, and it still has the same ability. It's just a haste. It doesn't have taunt, and it can attack now. This is weird. I mean, okay, I like this change just because it kills Lock, but it does make me think, what deck do you use this card in now? Do you still use it as a sustain, potentially? Maybe. I don't know. Like, to be fair, like, there's a lot of decks that just want heal, and could also use some haste. The only problem is it's only one haste damage, and I feel like unless those decks just so happen to have buffs as well to buff that haste damage, I feel like that's probably not a good idea. But at the same time, if those decks are running buffs, not only does it improve the attack, but it also lets you get more healing from the health. So yeah, it's got some promise. Blue Snail. Blue Snail's been reworked. It's going to 2 cost. What the hell? That's not supposed to be able to happen. Wait. Oh no, 2 health. I thought that was 2 cost. I was going to say. Give haste to all ally snails. Not particularly exciting. Okay, so Blue Snail, I believe, used to give charge to all ally snails, and then they realized that was stupid because Thrashing Machine, and then they were like, okay, now it only gives charge to 1 cost snails, and then I suppose there was still a way you could make that stupid, so now it just gives haste to snails, and has +1 health to compensate. I still think this is, like, pretty bad, but I think this card basically couldn't be good ever without it being annoying. So, yeah, I don't know how to feel about this. I guess generally positive. And Sword Emblem received a nerf. I never got to play with it because, I'm not going to lie, I've basically not played this month. I really just haven't been feeling up to it. So, I never gave it a shot, but I did predict it would be good, and it looks like it must have been because it got the nerf. However, I'm trying to figure out what it was because I can't believe I've already forgotten what it used to be. It's 7 cost 5/6. Whenever this takes damage, switch gain +1 dodge or +1 or gain transparency. Now I do remember that it used to be a 4/6, but that's what it already said. Now they give it +1 attack, which is a buff, but then clearly this effect update is a nerf. But I actually genuinely can't remember. I'm pretty sure the switch used to be at the start, but I don't know how this changes things. I know this is different, but I can't. I'm blanking on how. To be honest, it doesn't seem like that much of a nerf to me, so I feel like I'm probably missing. Oh wait! Oh my god! I'm dumb. It had haste before, didn't it? I'm not sure if the switch is different, but it had haste before. I'm pretty sure. Yes, it definitely had haste before. Right. Oh, I didn't even notice they reduced the cost of crown from 2 to 1 for the whole K round and C round deck. We've got Hyperlink blocked. Yeah, that we've seen that last stream. Huh, they remembered this card existed. Wait, is it back to its old version? Give all iron monsters +1/+1. If you have 1 health, silence them. Give +7/+7 in haste. Okay, similar to the old version. Yeah, last stream's... I don't know if this is the original version, because again, there's been so many versions, so many cards, I lose track. But I believe the original version of this card was a 4 cost that gave all ally monsters +1/+1, and if you had 1 health, it would give them all +7/+7. And it looks like now it also silences them before it gives them the +7/+7 and then gives them haste. I have no idea how to feel about this. It sounds terrifying in theory, but it sounds so memey on paper as well. I'm not going to make a comment on this because I feel like I have no idea if it'd be good. I will say I'm partially disappointed. Don't get me wrong, I do think this effect is funny. I do think it would be quite enjoyable to play around with. However, I've got to say, I actually liked its old effect. Well, I say its old effect. Its effect it used to have before this change. I just think that it was too weak. I think they just need to give more support for this, which is essentially it used to cost 0, but its cost would increase by 1 for each lost soul in your dust pile. And when you played it, each different lost soul in your dust pile, when you played it, it would trigger the dust effects of every lost soul in your dust pile. So if one of every lost soul had died at the time you played it, it would cost 7, but it would trigger every single dust of every single lost soul. I think that's a really cool idea for a card, very in flavor for determination. The problem is just, well, it's kind of bad. Well, I say that. It wasn't garbage. I mean, if you could get late enough into the game that you got the Sans last soul, the final one, then getting Gaster Blaster off of it is pretty huge. The healing could be helpful. Sometimes the triggering the Asgore damage at the right time in combination, especially with the Undyne damage, was really useful. It's just it needed more, I think. It needed more support, and I'm kind of sad that the effect is just gone now, but I suppose it could always go back. Um, Fridge effect update. Sad to see it. Sad to see it. Fridge now is a 1-cost spell that gives a monster taunt and draws a card. I mean, that doesn't mean the card's bad now. I just preferred the old version. The old version used to be it drew the bottom card of your deck, and as well as that, it would give. Actually, I think it used to. Okay, sorry, I got confused because it got changed so many times. But I think the last version was it draws any card from your deck, but it gives the bottom 3 cards -3 cost, -1 cost each. I mean, so -3 in total, but -1 on each individual card. I really like that version of Fridge, and I'm kind of sad they changed it, but I'm gonna guess it was too easy to just spam them and cycle your deck like crazy, and maybe there was some cards like, I don't know, maybe like Task that could really abuse that. I'm not sure. This is still going to be a pretty good cycle card, and to be honest, this technically probably could be more practically useful in more decks, because I'm sure there's a lot of decks that want cycle, but also realize that they're going to die if they don't put in more healing or more taunts, and this is obviously taunt with cycling at the same time, and most of those decks are probably going to be running big legendaries that don't have taunt, and you can easily give them taunt with this. It's just a bit underwhelming, I guess. It just, even though I still don't think it's a bad card, it just, it's not as interesting an effect in my opinion. Oh well. Multi-shot has changed again. I don't mind that so much because I'll be honest, I really didn't like the version of multi-shot we had last. I get that multi-shot had to change from its original version where it doubled your passive, which of course is what eventually the Royal Justice ability changed to do instead. I understand that that was overpowered, but I really didn't like this deal 1 damage and then deal 1 damage again if it killed, and then deal 1 damage again. It's just like, okay, it's kind of annoying, and usually it wasn't even a good card, it was just kind of annoying. So I like the fact they changed it. How have they changed it? Deal damage to a monster equal to this spell's cost. If it kills, add multi-shot to your hand with +1 cost Keys boss. Oh, okay. So it's the same, but now every time its cost and damage increases by 1. I think that's a good change. That might actually make this really good. I'm realizing this might be really good. So what I'm thinking right now is this is a golden hit, which is already a really good card that is better than a golden hit in most scenarios because you get to play it multiple times, theoretically infinite times given enough gold. Which saves on so many cards. But then do you need to save on cards, I suppose? And it does have the downside, of course, not being as flexible as Golden Hit, because you can't choose which cost is and which damage you're going to have when. You just get whichever one you have then. Is that good? I don't know. My instinct at first was that that's really good, but it was because of the fact that it's so much value in one card. But now I'm remembering, of course, again, it's undercards. You can draw more cards so easily. You can get full hands in control decks, especially in Justice, so easily, and just burn cards. So I don't know if having so much value inside one card actually makes this good. We'll have to see. I don't know, to be fair, even that aside, Golden Hit is such a good card that I imagine even if a worse Golden Hit was added to Justice, it'd probably be pretty playable. And I think this is kind of probably, given the fact that card advantage isn't as important, probably a worse Golden Hit. But again, even if it is just a worse Golden Hit, I think Golden Hit's good enough. It's probably usable in Justice. The only thing I'm thinking is maybe it's just a critical massive damage. Maybe Justice just has so many ways to deal damage, especially if they've got efficient stuff like Punishment and all that. They have so many ways to clear boards that you don't need this, is the only thing I'm worried about. That this just becomes gross overkill. Although, one last thing I just realised, this does sound very promising with any kind of spent gold on spells thing, considering this is a massive gold sink that counts as spell. It works really well with shock. Okay, right. Okay, my prediction is going to be this is good. in the right deck. You need to have a deck built around shock effects, or when you spent gold on spells last turn effects, or something that gets stronger depending on how much gold you spent on a certain card. If you can make a deck which uses multi-shot and takes advantage of that, it's probably really good in that deck. Otherwise, I think it's probably good enough to be played, but probably not as strong as just running headshot, strafe, and a couple punishments. Anyway, Cold Winter. I'm trying to remember what that is. Oh, yes, this card. Send an eye monster to your deck with +3/+3 and taunt. Yeah, I think I like this. I think. Yeah, I think I like this. So this used to be very weird. It used to be a 1-cost spell, which would still send an eye monster to your deck, and I think it gave it +1/+1, and it would heal you by the health that monster had before you sent it to your deck. But then if you generated the card, then instead of doing that, it would just give the monster +1/+1 and do nothing else. And I don't know why they added that condition. I guess they were scared about too much reshuffling being essentially a way to duplicate effects, and they were really worried about that. Wait, this is really good. It's just clicked. Just like Asriel. This allows you to recur DTs. There's no non-DT requirement. Oh. Okay, that changes things. I think this card's really good. I think this card's really good for late game decks, just control decks in general. It's greedy, but I mean, your patience, you have very good deck searching cards, and of course you have Alphys, like I just pick a card from my deck and I get it, and it gets a discount. So I don't think it's too out there that you can get double Vessel, double Kara, double Omega Flowey, double Angel of Death. I don't know, is that Mimi? I don't know, I don't think that's Mimi. I think that is strong. I think that probably is a very powerful effect. And even then, I'm just talking about the obvious application of, like, shuffling in DTs. There's obviously other applications that are less obvious of non-DT cards. Obviously, you could use this with Sand Dogs potentially, but I don't know if it's too slow to play them and then shuffle them back into your deck. Oh, but wait, you get 2 of them when you play them, and this is a monster on your board, so... Actually, yikes, yeah, this is really good with Sand Dogs. And I know that Sand Dogs is usually played in Determination, but I have played it in not Perseverance, Patience. That was the first soul I tried it in, and it definitely still works in Patience. So it maybe Sand Dogs pivot to Patience because of this. But any kind of thing that gets a massive benefit from being buffed, or a massive benefit from being recurred, definitely enjoys this card existing. Okay, so it looks like we're finally approaching the end. We got Arcane Scepter has been reworked. Effect update: turn start, out of Arcane goes to your hand. Yes, if you can't, cast a random spell on a random target. Oh, I like this buff. Okay, so one of my main problems with Arcane Scepter was basically it would fill your hand, and that sounds good, but considering that it would fill your hand with, random garbage, it kind of wasn't good. It was really hard to actually find the time to stop and pay to play these random spells, and often because you wanted this, random bullshit go effect in an aggro deck, even if you were just memeing around, you didn't have the time to stop, give up your efficiency for gold, which is super important in an aggressive deck, and just go for the Hail Mary, use these spells. You usually only want to do that once you fell behind, not once you're getting onto the board. But again, it would just clog your hand a whole bunch, I found. You'd often end up with way too many arcane codes in your hand, and you can discount them by playing spells, or at least, well, it looks like you can't anymore, but you could have done that. But you usually wouldn't be playing spells that early into the game. I love this idea that now, if you got a full hand, you can sacrifice the fact you're going to burn a card to get a free random spell off of Arcane Scepter. You just cast an Arcane Code for free if you can't have it in your hand. I love that. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention as well, I mentioned this before in a previous video, but another reason why Arcane Scepter is really bad, besides just it clogging your hand, is because it's a turn start effect. Oh wait, I think it was a turn end effect before. So actually, never mind. What I'm about to say I think is wrong now with the new version. But it used to be that it would add an Arcane Code to your hand if you had 6 cards in your hand, and put you up to 7 before you drew your next card. So if you only had one like hand slot left and you wanted that one hand slot to be a random card from your deck, the arcane codes would take priority and you'd get one of them in your hand instead and burn the top card of your deck when you might not have wanted that. Anyway, Vitality. Oh wait, just a moment. Effect update. At the start of every 10 turns, gain plus 10 HP. Oh my. Okay. Very, very, very interesting. I'm not going to say overpowered straight away. It could be bad. Doom does struggle to get value, and that takes 10 turns to go off. But Doom's an effect that can be played around heavily because of the fact that you know it's coming. Vitality... There's not much counterplay in a good way, as in, like, if there was, it would be a bad artifact. That seems big. I'm trying to remember Vitality is the artifact that used to be garbage that increased the health of things, right? I get Vitality and Prosperity mixed up sometimes because, they're just kind of similar words. Vitality, Prosperity. Yeah, so we still got Prosperity. I like this then. I like this. I'm really interested to see how good this is. Because this sounds good to me. I feel like good food Vitality, Prosperity Vitality, Health Vitality all seem good to me. Oh my god, Health is Beepus. I love that. Copycat being Among Us is good, but like, nah, Health is Beepus. That's the best. I can't tell what Pokemon. I can tell it's a Minecraft potion, but like, I don't know what's going on with it. What is going on there? Bro, they made Power Counter-Strike. I just realized. I've seen some of these before, which is why I'm not reacting to some of the more obvious ones, like, Dream, which, by the way, yes, they did turn the Dream token card into Dream as well. Anyway, +2 Elo. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked, but this is... Oh my god, I just realized what this is. This is, Puzzled Box of Yogg-Saron from Hearthstone. Oh my god. And I get it, CSGO, Counter-Strike. Okay, right, enough memes. Was that the last one? I already forgot. No, we had one more. Endgame. Ally Priestess... Oh, they just nerfed Endgame. So Endgame no longer gives attack buffs, it just triggers both switches. Were pieces overpowered? I'd be surprised if that was the case. I mean, I can't speak on it. They might have been. But I'd be surprised if they were overpowered. Alright then, overall, this update looks pretty good. Hopefully they've killed Locke. Don't want to see any more of that. I overall feel very positively about this. I just hope that the Frisk change, they maybe try some other identity for Frisk. I mean, again, I appreciate the effort to turn the card into something else, considering what it was before was garbage, but, eh. Well, I have these packs from the end of the season. I basically didn't play, so I don't think I got a Determination Shard. I think I finished... Wait, actually, I think I finished Ruby. I think I did bother to get to Ruby. Yeah, I bothered to at least get to Ruby, but I didn't really bother to get very far. But let's just open these packs to finish off. Hey, maybe I get lucky and get a Determination card. Oh yeah, by the way, if you aren't in my Discord server, something happened recently and I'm very mad. I'd never disenchanted a Determination card before, and I could get enough Determination shards to craft a new Determination card if I did that. And I was desperate to get Chris, because Chris is one of the only DTs I didn't have yet. They look really fun. They were obviously really powerful. That I really wanted them in the first place and all that. And I was just like, you know what? I have Angel of Death. I am never going to play Angel of Death. Not even to think of, oh, it's garbage, because I do think that it's probably not the worst DT in the game, but it's close to it. And I feel like there's just... Every deck I would run Angel of Death in, I'd probably rather run Kara. So I was thinking, you know what? I'm just gonna disenchant it and craft a DT. And I was thinking, I don't mind doing this because quite literally, I don't mind what I get. Like, I would rather get Chris, but even if I get Spamton Neo or Ultima Thrash, I won't mind. Even Spamton Neo. I know that Spamton Neo's bad, but I'm interested because I don't know, I haven't seen really anyone playing around with him, so I'd like to see how I would make a deck around him. And I don't know, I think he'd at least be fun. So I was thinking, this is a great idea because even though I'm disenchanting this and I'm only getting 2 of the 4 shards back, this is a determination card I'm never going to use, and all of the 3 options that I don't have yet, all the 3 DTs I do not own yet, all of them are ones that I wouldn't mind having. Even if they're not good like Spamton Neo, they'd at least be fun to play around with, and I'd want to try them out and see how I can make them good. So after all this setup, let's have a look at the determination cards I own. You can see that, oh, by the way, I do have the vessel, it's just a shiny vessel. You can see that I don't have Chris, I don't have Spamton Neo, and I don't have Ultima Thrash. Well, what happened there? I crafted a DT and it gave me Angel of Death back. Yeah, I was not very happy about that. No. Please, no, please, no. I think we say no to that. Well, anyway, I just realised we didn't even look at the DTs earlier when we were looking at all the art, but well, there they are. There they are. How long has this been? This has been a full 2 hour. Let's go. 2 hour mark. Let's go. New longest video. Hey, usually I'd be like, oh no one's going to watch it now. But I mean, that 3 hour video of me just looking at all the new cards in the second set actually did really well. So, who knows? But then maybe sorry, I said the second set and then chapter 2 Deltarune cards. But then, maybe this one doesn't do so well just because that was because of chapter 2. Either way. I'll see you in the next one, which actually should be very soon. In fact, maybe literally even today. Maybe. Well, I'll see you then anyway. Bye.